My 8-year-old daughter looked me dead in the eye and said, "Maddie would be a better mommy than you." My babysitter had poisoned my children against me, convinced them I was failing as a mother, and positioned herself as their savior. What I did next destroyed her so completely that she quit childcare forever. And my kids? They learned a lesson they'll never forget. Hit subscribe, smash that like button, and buckle up for a tale of psychological warfare that ends with the most satisfying justice you'll ever witness. This is Letters to Ray, and today's confession will leave you speechless. My name is Sarah, I'm 34, and I thought I had my life figured out. Divorced for 2 years, working as a marketing director at a Fortune 500 company, pulling down 6 figures and raising 2 amazing kids mostly on my own. Emma, 8, brilliant and sensitive. Tyler, 6, energetic and sweet. My ex-husband David pays his child support but lives 3 states away with his new wife, a 25-year-old yoga instructor who posts inspirational quotes on Instagram. I needed help. 60-hour work weeks don't leave much time for bake sales and bedtime stories. That's when Madison walked into our lives like some kind of Mary Poppins fantasy. 22 years old, early childhood education degree, references from 3 wealthy families in our neighborhood. She had this way of talking about children that made you think she understood them better than their own parents. "I believe kids need someone who sees their potential," she told me during the interview, her green eyes sparkling with conviction. Too many parents are so busy managing behavior that they forget to nurture the soul. I should have seen the red flag waving right there. But I was desperate, exhausted, and she had my kids giggling within 5 minutes of meeting them. For the first month, Madison seemed like a miracle. The house was spotless when I came home. The kids were happy, fed, and bathed. She'd leave little notes about their day. Emma wrote a beautiful story about a princess who saves herself. Or, Tyler built an amazing fort. Such creativity. But then the comments started. Subtle at first. Emma mentioned casually during dinner, "Maddie says kids in Denmark don't have to eat vegetables if they don't want to." When I insisted she finish her broccoli, Emma's face crumpled. "Maddie says forcing kids to eat things makes them have eating problems when they grow up." I laughed it off. Madison was young, idealistic. Of course, she'd have opinions. But the opinions multiplied. Tyler started questioning bedtime. "Maddie says 8 o'clock is too early for a 6-year-old. Her nephew stays up until 9:30. When I held firm, he actually said, "Maddie says good parents listen to what kids want." The phrase, "Maddie says," became like nails on a chalkboard. Maddie says this, Maddie says that. According to Madison, I was doing everything wrong. Too strict with bedtime. Too focused on vegetables. Too busy with work. Too tired to be truly present. And my children? They were absorbing every word like little sponges. The breaking point came during Tyler's parent-teacher conference. Mrs. Rodriguez, his first-grade teacher, had a concerned expression when she pulled me aside. "Tyler's been talking about someone named Madison a lot lately," she said carefully. "He mentioned that she thinks he needs more emotional support at home. He also said she told him that some parents just aren't cut out for raising sensitive children like him." My blood went cold. What exactly did he say? He asked me if kids can choose to live with someone else if their real parent is too stressed to take good care of them. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Madison wasn't just undermining my parenting. She was planting seeds of doubt in my 6-year-old's mind about whether I even wanted him. That night, I confronted Madison as diplomatically as I could manage. Her response was a masterpiece of manipulation. "Oh my goodness, Sarah, I'm so sorry if I gave Tyler the wrong impression," she said, her eyes wide with fake innocence. "I was just trying to help him process his feelings about the divorce. He told me he gets scared when you cry at night, and I thought if I could give him some tools to understand that sometimes parents need support too." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. I was the problem parent who cried at night and scared my children. She was the caring adult helping them cope with my inadequacy. "I would never want to overstep," she continued, placing a gentle hand on my arm. "I just care about Emma and Tyler so much. They're like my own children. Like her own children." The words made my skin crawl. But Madison wasn't done with her psychological warfare. She began leaving parenting books around the house with strategic passages highlighted. Articles about emotionally unavailable mothers and the impact of parental stress on child development would appear on my kitchen counter, always with a little sticky note. Thought this might be helpful. The kids' behavior toward me shifted dramatically. Emma, who used to run to greet me after work, barely looked up from whatever elaborate craft project Madison had started with her. Tyler began questioning every decision I made, from what we ate for dinner to whether he had to wear a jacket to school. "Maddie makes way better pancakes than you," Emma announced one Saturday morning, pushing away the breakfast I'd made. "And she doesn't get mad when we spill syrup." "Maddie says creative kids shouldn't have to clean their rooms," Tyler declared when I asked him to pick up his toys. "She says messiness is a sign of genius." Every parenting decision became a comparison to St. Madison and her enlightened methods. Every moment of normal childhood discipline was evidence of my failures as a mother. But the worst was yet to come. The final straw came during what should have been a perfect family moment. It was Tyler's 6th birthday, and I'd taken the afternoon off work to surprise him at school with cupcakes for his class. I walked into his classroom beaming, carrying 24 chocolate cupcakes with superhero toppers. Tyler's face lit up when he saw me, the first genuine excitement he'd shown toward me in weeks. But then his expression fell. "Where's Maddie?" he asked, looking past me toward the door. "She's at home, sweetie. I wanted to be here for your special day." But Maddie promised she'd help me hand out the cupcakes. She said she wouldn't miss my party for anything, not like some parents who are always too busy. The room went quiet. 25 6-year-olds and their teacher all staring at me, processing what my son had just said. The implication was crystal clear. I was the parent who was always too busy, and Madison was the one who never let him down. Mrs. Rodriguez tried to smooth things over, but I could see the pity in her eyes. Tyler spent the entire party talking about Maddie to his classmates, telling them about all the fun things she did with him and how she never had to work late like his mommy did. That night, after Tyler was in bed, Emma came to my room for what I thought might be a rare moment of connection. "Mommy," she said, climbing onto my bed. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." Maddie says that sometimes when parents get divorced, kids need to live with someone who can take better care of them. She says there are nice judges who help kids find better homes when their real parents can't handle it anymore. My heart stopped. Madison had crossed the ultimate line. She was terrorizing my children with threats that they might be taken away from me. She says if you love us, you'd want us to be with someone who has more time and isn't always stressed, Emma continued, her 8-year-old voice carrying words no child should ever have to say. I held my daughter close, trying not to let her feel how hard I was shaking. Madison wasn't just undermining my authority. She was psychologically abusing my children, filling their heads with fears about losing their mother while positioning herself as their rescuer. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I made a decision. Madison wanted to play mother to my children? She wanted to convince them she'd be better at raising them than me? Fine. I was going to give her exactly what she wanted. I called Madison the next morning with an opportunity she couldn't refuse, not without revealing her true motivations. "Madison, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what you said about the children needing more stability and attention. You're absolutely right, and I have a proposition for you." I could hear the excitement in her voice as she responded. "Oh, what kind of proposition?" "I have a work conference in Denver next week, 4 days of intensive meetings with our biggest client. Instead of arranging multiple sitters, I'd like you to stay here around the clock and have complete responsibility for Emma and Tyler. Full pay plus a substantial bonus. Think of it as a trial run for the kind of dedicated parenting approach you've been advocating." There was barely a pause before she answered. "Sarah, that sounds perfect. Those children deserve someone who can be fully present for them, not distracted by work calls and emails. I'd love to show you how much more settled and happy they can be with proper attention." Perfect. She'd taken the bait completely, even managing to insult my parenting one more time in the process. What Madison didn't know was that I'd canceled the Denver conference 2 days earlier. I'd arranged to work remotely from my sister's house across town, but I'd be monitoring everything through a comprehensive security system I'd quietly installed throughout the house. Every room had cameras with audio. Every conversation would be recorded. Madison was about to get a masterclass in what real parenting actually costs. Monday morning arrived, and I put on my best performance. Detailed instructions about routines, emergency contacts, household rules. Madison listened with the confident smile of someone who thought she could do everything better. "Don't worry about a thing," she said, already reaching for Emma as my daughter ran to hug her goodbye. "We're going to have the most amazing week together. Right, kids?" Emma and Tyler cheered, barely acknowledging my departure. I drove away with my heart breaking and my phone already connected to the live camera feeds. Day 1 went exactly as I'd predicted. Madison took the kids to the zoo, let them eat ice cream for lunch, and allowed them to stay up until 10 p.m. watching movies. Through the cameras, I watched her taking selfies with Emma and Tyler, probably planning to show me later how much happier they were under her care. But day 2 was when reality started creeping in. Tyler woke up cranky and overtired from the late bedtime. When Madison tried to get him dressed for school, he threw a tantrum that lasted 45 minutes. I watched through the camera as her confident facade began to crack. She tried reasoning, pleading, and bribing, but Tyler was beyond logic. Emma decided she didn't want to go to her piano lesson and threw herself dramatically on the living room floor, screaming that Madison couldn't make her do anything. For 20 minutes, Madison stood there looking helpless while my 8-year-old daughter controlled the entire household with her tears. By Tuesday evening, both children were overstimulated, overtired, and acting out in ways I hadn't seen in months. The house looked like a tornado had hit it. Toys everywhere, dishes piled in the sink, and Madison looking frazzled and defeated. But I wasn't done with her education yet. Wednesday brought the real test. Tyler woke up with a fever of 101.8 degrees. I watched through the camera as Madison stood in the kitchen with a thermometer, looking absolutely terrified. This wasn't the fun, creative parenting she'd imagined. This was the crushing responsibility of caring for a sick child. She called me in a panic, her voice shaking. "Sarah, Tyler is really sick. He's burning up and saying his throat hurts. I don't know what to do. Should I take him to the emergency room?" I could hear Tyler crying in the background, calling for Mommy, while Madison tried unsuccessfully to comfort him. "What's his temperature?" I asked calmly, though my own heart was racing with worry for my son. 101.8. "Is that dangerous?" "He won't stop crying, and he won't let me touch him." I walked her through the basic protocol I developed over 6 years of parenting. Children's Tylenol, pushing fluids, monitoring temperature every hour, calling the pediatrician if it went above 102. Basic knowledge that she clearly didn't possess despite all her criticism of my parenting methods. The pediatrician's office could see Tyler at 2 p.m., which meant Madison had to cancel the fun aquarium trip she'd planned with Emma, deal with a disappointed 8-year-old, and spend her afternoon in a doctor's waiting room with a sick, cranky child who wanted nothing more than his mother. I watched her face through the camera as she tried to comfort Tyler, who was sobbing and asking for me. She looked exhausted, stressed, and completely out of her depth. This was real parenting, not Instagram-worthy craft projects and zoo trips. Thursday brought new challenges that shattered Madison's confidence completely. Emma's school called at 10 a.m. to report that she'd been in a fight during recess and needed to be picked up immediately for a meeting with the principal. Madison arrived at the school looking harried and unprepared. Through the security footage I obtained later, Emma's school had given me access as her parent. I watched Madison try to handle the discipline meeting. Emma had pushed another student who'd made fun of her lunch, and the principal wanted to discuss appropriate conflict resolution. Madison's response was exactly what I'd expected from someone who'd spent months criticizing my harsh parenting style. She immediately took Emma's side, insisting that my daughter was just expressing her emotions and that the other child had provoked her. She actually suggested that Emma shouldn't be punished because she was going through a difficult adjustment period with her mother's work schedule. Even the principal looked uncomfortable as Madison painted me as an absent, workaholic parent who was causing behavioral problems in my own child. But Emma, sensing weakness, began pushing every boundary she could find. "I don't have to apologize," Emma declared defiantly. "Maddie says I should never apologize for standing up for myself." "That's right, sweetie," Madison said, completely undermining any chance of Emma learning from the situation. "You were just being strong." The principal's expression shifted from confusion to concern as she realized that the adult supposedly supervising my daughter was actively encouraging defiant behavior. But the real breaking point came Thursday evening when Tyler, still recovering from his illness, had a complete meltdown. He wanted his comfort food, the specific mac and cheese that I made with 3 different cheeses and breadcrumbs on top. Madison's attempt with a box of Kraft didn't cut it. "I want mommy," Tyler screamed, throwing the bowl of mac and cheese across the kitchen. "I want my real mommy, not you." I watched through the camera as Madison's face crumbled. For months, she'd positioned herself as the preferred parent, the one the children loved more. But now, when Tyler needed real comfort, real security, he was rejecting her completely. Emma, feeding off her brother's distress, joined in. "When is mommy coming home? I don't want you here anymore. You're not my real mom, and you can't tell me what to do." Madison tried everything, bribes, pleading, even tears of her own. But my children had learned something crucial during those 4 days. The difference between someone who plays with them and someone who truly takes care of them. Friday morning, I returned home to find Madison sitting at my kitchen table, looking like she'd aged 10 years. The confident young woman who'd spent months undermining my parenting was gone, replaced by someone who clearly understood the crushing reality of actual parental responsibility. Emma and Tyler ran to me like I was their lifeline, clinging to me with a desperation that broke my heart. They looked tired, overwhelmed, and genuinely relieved to see me. "Mommy." Tyler buried his face in my neck. "I missed you so much. Maddie doesn't know how to take care of me when I'm sick." "She can't make good mac and cheese," Emma added, still holding tight to my waist. "And she doesn't know how to braid my hair right." I looked at Madison over my children's heads. Her makeup was smudged, her clothes wrinkled, and her hands were actually shaking. "How is everything?" I asked innocently. Madison's voice was barely a whisper. "It was harder than I expected." "Really? I'm surprised. You've been telling Emma and Tyler how much better they'd be with someone who has more time and energy for them. I thought this would be perfect for you." The color drained from her face as she realized I knew exactly what she'd been doing. "Sarah, I didn't mean what, Madison? Didn't mean to tell my children that I'm an inadequate mother? Didn't mean to suggest they'd be better off living with someone else? Didn't mean to terrorize them with threats about judges taking them away from me?" She started crying then, real tears, not the manipulative ones she'd used on my children. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I thought I understood what parenting was, but I had no idea. How do you do this every day? How do you manage work and all of this?" I couldn't even handle 4 days. I sat down across from her, my children still pressed against my sides. "Madison, being a parent isn't about being the fun favorite who lets kids eat ice cream for breakfast. It's not about craft projects and zoo trips and telling children what they want to hear. It's about showing up every single day, making hard decisions, enforcing boundaries you don't want to enforce, and carrying the enormous responsibility of shaping 2 little humans into good people." She nodded miserably, understanding flooding her eyes. "It's about knowing that Tyler needs exactly 6 ounces of water and 2 stories before bed, or he'll wake up at 2 a.m. with nightmares. It's about recognizing that Emma gets overwhelmed in crowds and needs quiet time after school. It's about being the bad guy who makes them eat vegetables and go to bed early because their health and development matter more than their temporary happiness." "I get it now," she whispered. "I really do. I'm sorry." "Madison," I said quietly, "you spent months convincing my children that you'd be a better mother than me. You poison their minds against the parent who sacrifices everything for them. You terrorize them with threats about being taken away from their home. And you did it all while I was paying you to care for them." She couldn't meet my eyes. "So, I gave you exactly what you wanted. Complete responsibility for Emma and Tyler. And you know what happened? You couldn't handle 4 days of what I do every day of my life." Tyler looked up at me with his big brown eyes. "Mommy, Maddie said you were a bad mommy because you work too much. But you're not bad. You take care of us even when you're tired. Emma nodded solemnly. And you know how to make me feel better when I'm sad. Maddie doesn't know how to do that. Madison packed her things that afternoon with tears streaming down her face. She hugged Emma and Tyler goodbye, but the dynamic had shifted completely. They were polite but distant. She was no longer the magical alternative to their mother. She was just someone who'd learned that real parenting is the hardest job in the world. As she reached the door, I had one final thing to say. Madison, I hope someday you find a job that actually matches your skills and experience level. Taking care of children isn't about having opinions about how it should be done. It's about actually doing it day after day, year after year, with love and consistency and strength that never wavers. She left without another word. 6 months later, Emma and Tyler have never asked about Madison again. They learned something profound during those 4 days, that the parent who sets boundaries, enforces bedtimes, and sometimes misses events for work is also the one who knows exactly what to do when they're sick, scared, or need comfort in the middle of the night. Emma writes me little notes now that say, "Best mommy ever." Tyler tells his friends at school that his mommy is the strongest person in the world. They understand now that love isn't about being permissive or fun all the time. It's about being reliable, consistent, and present when it matters most. The most beautiful revenge isn't always dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's simply letting someone experience the reality they claimed they could handle better than you. Madison wanted to be a mother to my children. I gave her that opportunity. And she discovered that there's a world of difference between criticizing someone's parenting and actually being responsible for keeping 2 little humans alive, healthy, and happy every single day. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. And Madison got the most expensive education of her life. That's today's confession, and honestly, it still gives me chills thinking about how perfectly it all played out. If you've ever dealt with someone who thought they could do your job better than you, drop a comment and tell me how you handled it. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in the power of letting people prove themselves. And don't forget to like this video if Madison's education was as satisfying to you as it was to me. Until next time, remember, some revenge is best served with a reality check.